Good afternoon.
Hello there. All right, it worked. Can anyone hear me, by the way? All
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
excellent. I literally just got back from the doctor's office at 10:01, so it worked. Sorry, one moment. Okay, great. Well, anyway, I suppose I'm hosting and we're recording, so I have it set to automatically record. Just to be clear, does anyone object to recording this? Okay, cool. If someone does, if someone new comes and I don't notice, if someone could just please try to let them know that it's recording. I believe this was recorded in the past for Hangouts, so it shouldn't be a surprise. Okay, great. I suppose welcome to the November 5th Flux Dev meeting. Thanks, everybody. We don't yet have a system set up where someone's specifically volunteered to take notes, so I think we're all doing that until we do that. And we do not have any specific agenda items except for to review the last meeting, so I suppose I'll do that now.
Yeah, it's a good idea to just table stuff. If anyone wants to talk about stuff, we'll table it now, and then Scott can bear that in mind later.
Okay.
So just speak up now if you want to put something on the agenda to talk about in a bit on the chat. Or...
I'll write in the chat, I guess. This is better.
Usually we wait till about 5 past just to let people rock up in their own time.
Great. Okay, well, it is 5 past. I was going to put a few other items on there. Maybe I'll just make a note. Cool. All right, well, yeah, so I guess let's get to it. I only see the items that I put on there. I didn't see any action items from last week, but maybe I missed it. Were there any that I'm not seeing? Oh, I see. I'm sorry, there is one from Daniel to look into moving the meeting to Zoom. Guess what? We did. So there is a, I can actually just introduce this real fast. Obviously everyone's here, so you know that we now have Zoom instead of Hangouts because Hangouts wasn't recording properly. There was an issue. I'm actually not sure why that was, but we have switched to Zoom. It is now a Flux CNCF account for the, a CNCF account for the Flux project. So the second piece of that is for Flux maintainers, that information will have to be shared. So there's currently a service desk item open for using a sharing tool for the Flux project, such a secure password sharing tool, such as 1Password. They do sponsor open source projects, so I'm going to apply for that today. We do also have a Keybase account. So in the meantime, if there were anything mission critical, we could use Keybase's encrypted Keybase file system sharing for encrypted passwords or something like that. But we'll get that set up and make sure that all maintainers have access to that. Well, do you want to go with your item, Philip? So I'm not just continuing on.
Sure. So this is just a quick one. I posted it in the Slack yesterday. It seems like we're kind of dead in the waters when it comes to implementing multi-act for GoGit. The maintainer there seems to kind of not want to take the changes unless we fully implement multi-act. And yeah, I don't really know if I have time for that right now, and it's a lot of work. So my question there is really also his comments were that none of the maintainers really have any time outside of their free time to maintain GoGit. And I know in the past Hidde has looked at Git 2, I think it's called, which is like a C wrapper of like the Git core project. And I kind of wanted to bring up maybe the discussion of migrating from GoGit to libgit 2 as an option, as I'm kind of stuck there unless we implement multi-act into GoGit or we migrate. Otherwise, I can't really use the source controller. So yeah, that's kind of it. I don't know, Hidde, are you here? Yeah, I think so.
I'm here.
Yeah.
One of the issues we previously had when we looked into libgit or git2go was that signatures weren't possible, or verifying signatures wasn't possible. The other thing I'm worried about is the fact that we currently cross-compile to ARM, and I'm not sure what the current status of cross-compiling C bindings to cross-compiling C bindings basically.
Yeah.
Michael, do you have any insights into that?
I don't. I probably have tried it, but I don't remember what happened. I think if the library is available and built elsewhere, that might work. I don't know.
I can probably try that out because I have a Raspberry Pi cluster at home. So I could probably.
Cool. I mean, yeah, even if you can just source it from somewhere and cross-compile on your usual PC or whatever, that would be a reasonable experiment.
Don't burn your battery though, as Stefan did.
It's kind of like I don't want to like I know that it's a big ask to even consider migrating this, like when the project isn't really that old. But if after, I don't know how many people have actually looked at the GoGit code, but after spending some time with it now, it's kind of scary if we're going to build this whole project around GoGit and the maintainers don't feel like they have time to maintain it. And I don't know really if they leave, who's going to take over, because it's a very complicated project, like just the code base, looking at it.
Yeah, and what we are doing isn't that complicated actually. We use basic Git functionalities with some more advanced features like, verifying commit signatures. But other than that, our functionalities are pretty basic. Another thing about the libgit2 library is the fact that it's semi-sponsored by the Git project itself, I think. At least it's mentioned on the website as being the available solution. I just know that other maintainers are a bit worried about enabling CGO.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
I
only
think that's a
drawback.
valid argument. Yeah.
But at the same
there's-
time, we don't want to rely on a Git binary, and there is no remedy to the multi-act problem, which has been an open issue for about 3 years. So
Yeah, I noted down that libgit2 doesn't support GPG signatures. Did I get that right?
it does now, since
does now.
the August the 18th. So very recently.
So
I'm wondering why it was added. Maybe someone had the same issues as we did.
So as
or
far
we
as we know,
currently
it
have.
supports everything we need. It's just
Yep.
the ego issue.
And a benefit, I guess, is that it actually supports multi-act and multi-act detailed, which in theory would make it more efficient than GoGit, just after reading through the standards. And it's like the community support is a bit bigger because they not only do wrappers or bindings for Go, but for a lot of other languages. So there are a lot more projects that depend on the same core code.
Yeah, it's bound to
I just wanted to lift the discussion. So it's and if we say no, it's I just want like let's document that and say like yeah no, GoGit is the way to go, and then I will have to write some sort of Git proxy or something like that to work around the whole multi-act stuff. But it's like but if it's small issues that can be remedied, and I can spend some time just fixing stuff in the Go bindings, and then I think that's a lot easier than trying to implement multi-act, which has been an issue for 3 years and nobody has really dared to do it. And after spending 2 weeks with this, I really I understand why people are afraid.
Hey, Philip, how about you open a discussion in the
Yep.
toolkit repo? There's not one. Oh, sorry, Flux2 repo.
I'll do that.
Thanks very much.
Okay, great. Hida, do you feel like announcing the next item? I feel like this is your baby here. I'm also happy
The
to.
new homepage. The new homepage. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So a while ago, I started working on basically renewing the website. The idea is to create a central hub for everything around Flux2 and the GitHub toolkit, because having everything spread around in multiple repositories doesn't really work while your project grows. And the first step is the new homepage, which was launched about an hour ago. So if you go to fluxid.io, you will see a much brighter homepage. And the next step will be to slowly start moving documentation there. So documentation will be on the same site, and we have one central place for everything. If you have any comments on it, feedback, send me a message or whatever. That's about it.
I think it looks great. I've got a couple of sneak previews of it, so I've already formed my opinion.
Yeah. Same here. I'm excited.
Purely mechanical thing. The CSS for the white boxes, there's like 5 of them, I think, kind of in the center of the page, render really weird in Safari and fine in Chrome.
Can you send me a screenshot?
Yep. Me being Hitty?
Hidden, yes.
Okay.
Anyway, I will look into it. I mean, I'm a Linux user, so I don't have Safari at hand. I tested it on iOS and it renders fine there, so. Oh, that's interesting. That's a Flexbox issue. Yeah, we'll look into it. It'll be fine. Thank you for testing it.
Hida, do you mind if I ask you a question about the docs real quick, since we're here?
Yeah, sure.
The Helm upgrade docs, are those on the controller? Is that in the controller documentation? I actually just lost track of where that was.
If you go to the Toolkit website, there is a migrate subsection in the guides menu. I think I put it there. Yeah, if you press the menu, go to migrate, and then you press from the Helm operator, you have the migration guide.
Guide.
Peter, are we asking people to try it out at this point?
The Flux v2 migration discussion thing was updated with a link to it. I haven't tweeted it yet because of the elections in the US and the fact that it will get snowed under in people being excited or terrified.
Okay.
So I'm waiting with that till tomorrow. I mean, we probably have the results in about an hour or so. So
Makes sense. I think maybe my question was premature in that case. Happy to wait. But just so everyone on the call knows, when that happens, we'll be posting updates in the Flux channels, right? The Slack channels.
Yep.
Okay. I guess that was probably rhetorical. I would do that if someone else didn't. So.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really exciting too. Oh, thanks, Hida. I see it in the notes. I think already the governance doc was mentioned, but I wanted to mention it just in the same breath as the new contributing guidelines, because they followed the governance doc procedure. If everyone's not familiar with that, please check out how decisions are made in a more codified fashion in the governance doc. I think it's fairly the status quo. So pretty much what everyone's already doing, open discussions, make sure that everything's transparent, et cetera. But please do have a look. And also, it is a work in progress, so please be involved. And the contributing guidelines was a first stab at ensuring that the ethos of the project right now, that how contributing should happen, is registered. So if someone sees a problem with that, please click on that link and just have a read at some point, and just ping me in Slack or open an issue or a PR even in the community repo. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that there's a current PR for Flux security, and that's something that is following the open process too. So I just don't want anyone to be caught off guard by that, wondering why was that way. So please check that out. Right now, only Hida and myself are listed as the security team, but it is something that is a work in progress. So please be involved in thumbs upping or or even just any opinions that you may have that are dissenting opinions. Did anyone have any other thoughts or things they wanted to chat about? So I think that covered all the topics that are on the list so far.
So from a docs perspective, the roadmap pieces that are remaining to converge Flux v2 to the feature set of v1 are a little bit buried. I'm not sure whether that's top of mind for anyone looking at v2 at this point. It's a little dev-centric, I guess, rather than consumer-centric. So it's a little unobvious, I think, what the current state is. And given the months of uncertainty of current state with the previous project, working with Argo, I suspect confusion will reign as is. It might make sense to make that somewhat more prominent.
So Alan, you mean both that the where it is kind of a bit out of the way, and the language used is not really
Once
right
the language, once that text is found, it is apparent to me that there is outstanding work to be done. But finding it was a little bit unobvious. I had assumed you go to Flux.cd. I was like, look, v2 is amazing. And there's like download and call to action type stuff, but there isn't, oh, by the way, it doesn't update images yet.
Got it.
So maybe a link somewhere in there that says feature parity with v1, is that not done? Here's the issue tracker or something would be sufficient.
Yeah, so
like here's the roadmap and issues, and I don't know, are we using the project tracking thing?
it's not. It's done by hand. The sort of 100%, 30% stuff is done by hand. But yeah, good point. So that should be not quite front and center, but certainly above the fold, shouldn't it?
I would put it above the fold.
Okay.
Yeah, I use the image updating feature a lot, and I'm perfectly fine with running alpha in production. But lack of that is preventing things. So I keep going and looking, and it seems every time I go to check, the docs moved slightly for where the declaration is.
If you're willing to try stuff out, then there is a working controller for doing image updates that works.
Oh, there is. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there you go. Another bit of evidence that the roadmap is not quite expressed correctly. So,
let's see, where would it be? Is it somewhere in the roadmap doc? Like there's the design link, implement isn't checked off.
I probably need to revisit those line items to make sure they actually reflect how we got here and where we're going.
The image scanning and automation API thing links to the discussions stuff, which is a little bit too low level from a consuming perspective. I have no idea where this would be in an issue, maybe.
Yeah, Michael, do you think you would paste a link in Slack or the or the doc to where people would find that, and then if you want, I could make a PR to the documentation for the roadmap page. Linking that. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Give me a second.
Okay. Yeah, no rush. At least from my point of view. Maybe from Alan's point of view. Alan, just so that I don't want to become overly detailed unnecessarily here, but just so that I get it. When you were saying above the fold, did you mean both, since the image update feature parity is the non 100% finished item, that should probably be on top, and also that there should be a link to the roadmap somewhere higher up the chain when the user just first comes onto Flux.io, fluxcd.io, or yeah, I guess I'm curious about when you said above the fold, what did you mean? Literally just bump that
Actually,
up on that page, or yeah?
I didn't say above the fold. That's
Oh,
not-
sorry. Oh,
so
sorry about that. Yeah.
That was me.
I think
Oh, you-
putting something on the
Okay.
page above the fold is reasonable. I think that thing doesn't need to be extremely detailed. I think simply saying Flux V2 is not at feature parity with V1 yet roadmap would be sufficient, and then it doesn't need to be updated constantly.
Gotcha. I see. So there is now on fluxcd.io, there is now, as of today, there's the banner that's back saying that's currently in active development, and then linking to Flux V1 if people need that. Do you think that that would be a good place to satisfy what you were?
As is, no.
Yeah,
If
link.
augmented with slightly more text, yes. Although that box is kind of perfectly shaped for getting ignored. And does not appear once you hit any of the call to action buttons mid-page.
Right.
So
I
Yeah.
reckon, I wonder if we can have a little kind of dashboard readout, basically, you know, what parity bit, Helm's up to this, read-only is up to this, automation's up to this. I mean, it could be a fairly thin stripe and then just link into the roadmap, which we can do a bit of rewording on as well.
and the progress bars in the roadmap you said are all manual right now.
Yeah, and slightly arbitrary as well.
Yeah, I don't want to
Picked 30% because it seemed about a third of the way there. It's kind of not detailed line items because they don't. It's a bit of an exploratory process, so it's hard to give it a very precise number. It's probably better to. I think it would be better at this point to, instead of giving a proportion, just say it's alpha. Like the image updates.
there's a kind of a distinction, I think, between some of the feature set is subject to change and some of it isn't bug free versus the feature doesn't exist at all yet.
Right. So
I mean, like I look at Flux and I see alpha, beta, but pretty decent developers, and it's non-prod, so I'm going to try it out. I can't get the feature to work. What the heck? Does that make sense?
can you explain that last bit again?
Like alpha does not sufficiently capture the lack of a feature. It adequately captures unstable, buggy.
Yeah, right.
The different config file may not work after an upgrade, may not be possible to upgrade. You might have to nuke it and reinstall. But like I can't get the image updater to work. It used to work in the older version. How did the config change would be my expected route of investigation. Not, is it not implemented yet?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is actually up to the point where it does stuff to a sort of alpha quality and has a different design. So there is a migration thing. But yeah, I can see why that's totally unclear from the documentation.
That said, I don't think over-engineering something as an interim state is worthwhile if this is going to be a matter of weeks. So like one sentence that just says it ain't done may be sufficient.
Yep.
And for what it's worth, I have not found wherever that other build is.
I put a link in the note stock. I'll put it in the
I should go back there.
chat as well.
And grab it from the note stock.
Great.
Theoretically.
Chat. That's got instructions for how to get going in the README.
So one question I have about the banner idea, or something like this that's prominent on all of these documentation pages, is until we do what Hida said, where we actually do move this documentation into one site, we're really kind of making a similar-ish, but not the same banner on all of the sites, on all the documentation sites. Is that something that we, it's an opinion, it's responding to what you said, Alan, but also I think taking the temperature of the room. Is that something that we want to do now? Is there value in that, or should we? Yeah.
Do you mean like having a readout of the roadmap on, say, the Flux V1 site as well, or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. So we have the banner on this landing page now. We don't have it within the toolkit docs pages. Once you actually get drill down into any of the documentation, we also don't have it on the V1 documentation page either. And should we have something that connects them, or is that just unnecessary work at this point? I'm responding in part to what Alan brought up, because I feel like that's one of the things you mentioned, Alan, was it's not prominent. You know, adding additional information to this spot or somewhere at the top would be valuable, but then once you leave the landing page, you don't see it any longer. Is there kind of a feeling of where the priority is, that maybe from an end user point of view?
I would say that adding a banner to the V2 docs to this effect probably would not be super valuable, but in the getting started text, I think is what gets directly linked to the V2 getting started bit. If I'm remembering correctly. Go back to the page. That please click here is to the V1 docs. So if you just go to fluxcd.io, you have getting started and learn more, your two major call to action buttons dead center. Yeah. And one of those goes to the introduction and the other one goes to the getting started, which starts with prerequisites. And neither of those mention the current project state or lack of feature parity. I would have expected it in the first paragraph on at least one of those pages. Not a banner at the top, and not on the V1 docs. More so someone arriving and saying, okay, I'm going to use V2, it's amazing. I remember V1 had this image updatey thing. Something that says, hey, you might not want this. It might be prudent. It's, you know, the opposite of usually what people want from a software project, but.
Yeah, got it. I'm just taking a note on that. Cool.
And I don't think updating it with percentages is a valuable use of time, for what it's worth. Saying just something like, it's not yet at feature parity, read the roadmap or use V1 for now would probably be sufficient. But I don't know how long it's going to be.
Yeah.
Or if there's an API to the project interface, so you cannot do it by hand if it's going to be a really long period of time. I hope someone else has an opinion. I don't want to dominate this.
I can just say personally, I think communicating to users is good. Of course. So if we can, we know that these docs are going to be, it's going to be updated in the stages. The goal is to be far more user-centric on landing. You know, the landing page I think already feels that way, but once you actually get into the docs, part of the idea is to reformat them so that the widest user base is served first, because power users really they really can navigate docs much more easily, and we don't really have to worry about that. I don't think we have to worry about accidentally making power users feel like we're not being too technical enough for them on the get-go. I think they can drill down easily or deep link or whatever. So that's the goal. And if there are steps like you mentioned, Alan, that can help us get there, just like quick, easy wins, my opinion is that sounds fantastic. And thanks for your, just your views on that. It sounds like a fairly easy PR.
Does that last sentence fragment mean do it yourself? Or?
Oh no, you can if you wish, if you want to, but I actually meant I'm happy to make a PR based on your recommendations there.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So Daniel brought up in the chat a topic of having a Helm chart for Flux V2. Daniel, do you want to describe the situation you're in?
Yeah, I watched the demo about Terraform, and I picked up that there is unlikely to be a Helm chart for installing or bootstrapping Flux V2, and we're in the unfortunate situation. Well, we're using Flux V1 in Anger at the moment, and we're about to go into a sort of multi-tenancy environment with a wider group in our company, the enterprise. And their way of installing CRDs and more things requires us to have a Helm chart to make that so that for review. So we've been quite happily using the Flux bootstrap command to test it out in our own Kubernetes clusters, and we've been using the Terraform provider recently which works better in our workflow. But we're not in that position when we go into the enterprise's big cluster. So I was wondering, if there was likely to be one, which Hidde said that there was unlikely to be in the near future, and because we've got a real business case for it, I don't want to do the work to get Flux V1 and then it be deprecated and have to do the work again for Flux V2. So I'm minded to just do it all in one sort of big bang now. If we did the work to make a Helm chart, is there anything wrong with us doing that you see? Because there wasn't an appetite, or I got the sense there wasn't an appetite for a Helm chart, is it just wasted work? They do the enterprise solution does have a way of handling the CRD problem that I see as being the issue previously with Flux V1, in that they do a kubectl apply of CRDs as part of their rolling out Helm charts anyway, to sort of make up for the fact that CRDs don't really get changed after the first installs. But I also wondered about maybe a post upgrade hook to do that kind of thing, or something like that. So yeah, and that's my question really.
Part of the answer is, whatever you do in your own private enterprise platform is sort of up to you. And I don't think there's any technical problems apart from the CRD one. It's a shame Stefan is here, because he would no doubt contradict me straight away and know exactly why. But I don't think there are any technical problems with it.
But I'd like to do it in the open, so that anyone else who had the same kind of problem could take the work as well, right?
There are no
so I think
sorry, I think I just cut off Michael and Philip wanted to speak too.
Yeah, sorry. You go first. I'll go second.
I can't remember what I was going to say. Go for it.
Oh, okay. You mean me? Okay. Yeah, I was just going to reiterate or underscore what Michael said. That is actually true. There is no technical reason why a Helm chart isn't viable. In fact, I've been asking about this because personally, I, having maintained community Helm charts for years, and private ones, it's something that I'm interested in doing. However, I haven't put out effort in that direction because we have, as Hidde mentioned, like 999 other things to do for Flux. So I have not done that.
I guess I'm in the situation where I really need it to go live soon. So therefore I'm in that beautiful position where I need it, and it's a problem that can be solved for other people at the same time.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, personally, I would say that sounds fantastic. As Michael said, there's no reason why not. I would also say, please feel free to reach out to me for things like reviews or looking at it, just because it's an area of interest of mine personally. You don't need to, of course, do whatever you wish, but technically it's literally just handling CRDs, and that's it. And it sounds like you're very familiar with that already. So
yes, I've been bitten by it many times.
yeah, yeah. And in terms of the webhook, the upgrading, that's something that's also on the horizon for new CRDs, is ensuring that they come with their own upgrade path. So.
What in terms of Helm itself, or
No,
in
I
terms
mean
of
just in
Flux?
terms of the CRD itself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's unrelated to Helm at this point,
Yeah.
because it is actually an interest of mine to reopen the older decision not to have Helm uh, install new CRDs once the first one is installed, or on upgrade rather. I do see a use case in Helm core itself to check not only for the CRD itself, but also the CRD version. Because
Yes.
CRDs are written correctly and upgrade paths are handled correctly, then there would be no reason why Helm couldn't say, oh, this CRD version doesn't exist. I'll go ahead and install that. The main issue is that because upgrading, depending on the number of resources that you have, could take a very long time, that could potentially get in the way of the Helm workflow, where you just might wait for a very long time. So it is really, I think, the most obvious thing is, make sure to handle that in your own workflow. And that's, in the end, not really a Helm problem. That's a SIG apps problem. That's why Helm decided not to manage CRDs. But I could see a use case for an opt-in there. So I think that's something that we can certainly think about on the Helm side. And then on the Flux side, it's really just, I would say when the dust settles with other priorities, we could reopen the conversation about whether it makes sense to help maintain a Helm chart too.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Great. Was there something you wanted to say as well, Philip?
Yeah, so I think that the main reason why Helm isn't supported is mostly because QBuilder kind of generates customized manifests, and then that becomes like the de facto installation method. And it's been the way like that for QBuilder for forever, I guess. I would look at, I know that the OPA Gatekeeper project has built like a script that generates Helm 3 charts from the customization sources. So I would look into what they're doing, because it's pretty good. And I use it, so it works. And as long as you're fine with not like upgrading CRDs and you can deal with that, you can kind of live with that situation. So I think the reason Stefan, and I probably shouldn't speak for him, but he doesn't really want to build Helm charts, is because then you have to manually manage two sources of manifests basically at the same time. So
yeah, I was trying to look at some clever way of doing exactly what you discussed in the Terraform provider, by looking up and then parsing the Go to find out all the default values and make a values file out of that. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and I need to get unblocked quickly, and then I'll deal with doing it properly, right?
But look at the OPA Gatekeeper project, because they're also building on QBuilder, and they have scripts that generate it. So I don't know how difficult it would be to just adapt this to Flux 2, but I think that might be an option, or the most realistic option right now, at least.
Perfect. Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Philip. And a number of charts that have an application that already have a workflow to generate resources do exactly that. Cert Manager is another good example. There are several other notable examples I could point you to if for some reason you run into problems with those.
Cert Managers where I've had the most problem with CRD updates, but let's not talk about that.
Indeed. But in terms of generating the manifests for the chart, rather, I mean, the CRD issue, I think, that's actually just based on the application itself, even if however you install it.
Yeah. Yeah, many war wounds for that. Okay, super. Thank you, everyone.
I probably should have given a trigger warning before I mentioned that. I just saw your note, Michael, in the chat. Was that about what you were saying in that context, or something different about bringing it up?
That was just me saying to Daniel that I'll bring up the Helm chart thing. I'm going to catch up on note taking.
Thank you. Any other open topics or ideas that people wanted to discuss while we're here? Okay, great. Well, I think in that case, thanks everyone, and you get back 12 minutes of your day.
Cool. Thanks
We
for
will
being
see
here,
you next
Scott.
time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks.